Welcome back, guys. Unranked Podcast here. What we're going to do today is really just chat about the NBA playoffs, talk about the play-in games. That's something that we saw a little bit about back in the bubble, but this will be kind of the first real feel for it, I guess you can kind of call it. Just
Yeah,
really seeing like the significance of it, how important it is. Obviously, it was important in the bubble, but it's kind of cool to see it all shake down after a full season and like all the seating and all that good stuff. So yeah.
sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And I would say, just kind of the introduction with the playing game, I think it's kept things interesting. To try to, the tail end of the season, it's kept things a little more interesting than I think it traditionally would be. Some teams playing a little harder, other teams wanted to work their way out of the play-in or whatever. So I think it's kept, the it's kept it interesting and entertaining. Obviously, some teams still threw games for beneficial purposes, but I think largely, I do think it had a benefit effect versus the last I don't know 2 or 3 weeks. Every team in the playoffs is more or less coasting. So I think it's a good thing. I like it. I like the way it's worked, and I'm excited to see how the first couple games play out.
Yeah, absolutely. It extended that sense of urgency. You know what I'm saying? Like you weren't able to oh, you're 42 and 40, locked up the 8 seed, or like 42 and 38, locked up the 8 seed already. So you can't just pull all your players and let them sit down and kind of just like you said, throw last couple games of the season. Obviously, teams still did that, but it made them play a little bit harder, and I think it even made a couple of those games on Sunday a little more competitive. So,
For sure.
um, but yeah, what we'll talk about to start off is the first matchup tomorrow at 6:30. We got the Hornets and the Pacers. So I guess I'll let you start off first, Eli. Who do you got and why?
Yeah. So I'm really just rolling with the Hornets. Just kind of on a gut feeling on this one. I just think the Hornets. I think ball coming to play. I like Miles Bridges. I just like that team in general. I think uh, they're exciting, and I think they're going to kind of come ready to play. They're going to be kind of, not that it's that big of a spotlight, but it'll be the primetime game for that night. All eyes, anybody watching NBA, eyes will be on them. So I think they're a young team, but I think they're going to step up to the plate and kind of just take that. So that's kind of more of a gut feeling on that one. I'm kind of rolling with them. I would love to see what
Melo.
Ball brother or Melo does and Miles Bridges in their first type of you know playoff type atmosphere. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I'm gonna go with you on that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Hornets. I've seen them play a couple times this year. They're one of those teams that just gets, they're pretty athletic. They don't have a ton of size down low, but they got some shooters. I think LaMelo, in my opinion, rookie of the year. I think definitely think he should be just based off of his team, him being able to put his team into the playoff or help his team get into the playoff or the play-in game. I think that's something that's definitely like a huge achievement, especially this is a team that's been out of the playoffs ever since Kemba Walker left, even before he left. That franchise, they kind of struggled to even stay around 500. So I think that this is definitely going to be their first year back in the playoffs and, potentially playing against the 1 seed or the 2 seed in that first round, quote unquote.
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, so next matchup I think is going to be a little harder for me. Just trying to staying in the East here, and that's going to be the Boston Washington matchup. So if you would ask me couple, maybe even going into the season, Boston would have been one of my more favorite teams as far as who I thought could make a run, who I thought could kind of put it all together this year. But just due to injuries, due to things we've talked about as far as them not maybe just having, too many guys that need the ball, too many guard heavy players. So I just don't really know what they're doing. And I think for them, this is going to be a bit of a disappointment versus Washington, who probably would have never thought they would be in any type of environment, any type of playoff type game, maybe make the playoffs. I think they thought they were going to cash it in and be one of the worst teams in the league. So I
Yeah.
think it's kind of the tale of two tapes on that one. One is going to be their season's kind of disappointment. The other one, they could really make a season out of this if they win the game.
Mm-hmm.
So and you cannot underestimate what Russell Westbrook can put together for one game. So I'm leaning towards them pulling it together as far as putting a good cap to an above average season, something they played outside of where many of their expectations were, and then Russ just putting the team on his back, or whether he needs 20 rebounds, 20 assists, 40 points, whatever it is, he'll find a way to pull out whatever they need that game, I think, to get a dub and get them into the actual playoff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This one's gonna be a little bit tougher for me because, so the Celtics, they got Jaylen Brown out for the season. Wizards got Bradley Beal. He's got a bum tire, he got that hamstring, still giving him issues. So I think I'm probably gonna lean Wizards as well, just because at least Bradley Beal's gonna be able to be out there and like kind of like even play decoy or kind of make it some kind of an impact. Um, the Celtics they've been trending down ever since, after the All-Star break. I feel like we had talked about prior, they got a lot of guys that can play like the 1, the 2, the 3, but they don't really have a lot of inside game. I feel like Jason Tatum kind of ran out of gas. He had that game where he brought him back from like 25 points down. They're down 25 against the Spurs. He scored like 50 something points. And after that, I just feel like that team just didn't look the same. I feel like they were just kind of like emotionally spent and
Yeah.
started to struggle. I think before the All-Star break, they were at like the fourth, fifth seed. They fell all the way into the playoff. I think that's definitely kind of showing. They had that happen. Like Kemba Walker went out a little bit or went out. Got the Evan Fournier, got him in a trade. He was hurt. So they, have been hurt off and on. They just haven't really been able to be as consistent. I agree with you. I think Russ, like one game to get in, like I'm expecting him to have, like I said, 15 assists, 15 rebounds, 25, 35, 40 points, whatever that kind of looks like overall, just to make just I can definitely see him putting his stamp on that game and like taking over that game very early and getting a lot of players involved and putting a lot of pressure on the Celtics defense. I'm gonna go with the Wizards.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's just going to push the issue on whatever has to happen. And I don't think there's one guy on that other team that can even, try to slow him down if he wants to. He's a force of nature, but I definitely think, like you said, one game to get it done. He's one of the few guys that I would feel very confident on. He's going to go 120% and try to get it done. He's one of the few guys in the league I know is going to give that effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be kind of interesting, to see that one play out as well.
Yeah.
And then I think we can kind of just move over to, not the most exciting game. I think we're going to have our biggest argument coming on the two last on here. But I would say, we kind of go to the Memphis, San Antonio. How do you kind of see that one playing out?
I see. I don't know. I think this is one where it's kind of tough for me. I feel like, it's one of those things where Popovich, probably one of the best coaches in NBA history. They obviously don't have the star power. Not even call it star power. They just don't really have the guys that they used to have with that experience they used to have in the past. So last couple of years have been been on the downside for them. They still kind of find a way to be like in the playoffs. They kind of, like last year, 2 years ago when they were able to get like the 7th, 8th seed, they took the Nuggets, all the way to game 7 as a 7th seed. So I just feel like, he'll definitely have them prepared. I think I'm gonna go ahead and go Spurs just off of Popovich at the helm. I like Memphis a lot. Obviously John Morant, great up and coming player, and they got some very solid guys. But I just kind of feel like they're still just kind of young and still kind of finding their way. I definitely saw that a lot when they were playing the Warriors yesterday. Just when it got to be crunch time with like 5-6 minutes left, they were able to bring the game. They were able to tie the game, but a lid just went on the rim. They don't really have a ton of shooting. They went through quite a few different droughts that game that kind of concerned me for them going forward. So I do think that they may struggle a little bit. I could definitely see the Spurs coming out on top.
Yeah, just being perfectly transparent, I do not know if I've watched the Spurs play at all this year. So I'm just being 100% honest with you. I can't tell you much about them. So because of that, I'm solely going John Morant, another young gun. I truly think John Morant's one of the best young players in the league. If you gave me a list like 5 players to try to build a team around, he would be on my list for sure. I think he's that good, that awesome. And so just by default, I'm going to go with him, young gun. Hopefully try to similar ilk as Ball, just to see maybe they're too young to even know that they shouldn't be doing this in the playoffs or a playoff type environment. And so I'm going to roll with them. Now, would I be shocked if Popovich came up with a great plan with whoever he got on team, and they came out there and played lockdown defense. Not one bit at all.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with players win the games and not the coaches, and try to roll with John Morant. We'll get it done on this one.
Yeah. That's one thing I'll say too. I mean, if anybody has any experience in a playoff, it's the Grizzlies. So they kind of understand what that pressure looks like, one and done and you're out of there,
Yeah.
potentially. So, they might even have an edge in that regard. And I agree. I mean, I could definitely, I do think the Spurs will pull it out, but I could definitely see John Morant, kind of coming out and just kind of like his, coming of his own. I mean, he's been definitely overachieving the last couple of years, but this might be like his, put him up in that like that category. I mean, I think he is one of the top 5 younger guys you want to build your team around, but I think it definitely like solidifies, start to really make a statement with a game like this tomorrow or Wednesday. So
Agreed.
yeah,
This should kind of be one of the first patches on his coat. You were second in your second year. You went and beat a Popovich team in the play-in to get to the playoffs. Right? You know what I mean? It's actually kind of your first big patch of something he did this at 20 years old or 22 years old.
yeah,
So I second that. And yeah, I just think it's interesting, the playoffs in general, the type of, conversation or the playing type of conversations they're creating, the different narratives that we're going to have. And, kind of just roll it into, teams that, I think both team people at the start of the year going into the season, people thought that these two teams would be top of the playoffs, especially before Clay got hurt.
yeah,
So it's interesting to see how, how it's all played out, how, the Warriors were struggling tremendously at the start of the year, and people were putting a lot of pressure on Curry, saying, "Hey, you don't look the same. You're looking funny in the light here." And versus the Lakers, who were rolling throughout the first half of the season, and then injuries hit them hard. So it's kind of it's kind of odd to see how all that kind of joined together at where we're at here at the bottom of the playoffs.
yeah.
And so I actually am most excited for this game. Uh,
I hate that it's on 10 o'clock at night.
I know they don't do us no favors with that one.
Not at
But,
all. Not at all.
yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think? Who are you thinking for this one?
So it's kind of a cheap answer because I still think the Lakers could get in and make a move, but I truly think they're probably going to lose that game to the Warriors, and then LeBron is going to turn it on, get in everybody's asses, and then they'll make a pretty good run for the rest of the playoffs there. But that's kind of going to be the coming to Jesus moment that, hey, if we don't get this shit done, guys, we're going to be, at home.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's going to happen. We got a half a bum ankle right now. AD's looking funny in the light that which AD's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all that's going to come to the forefront in one game. And then after that, I think LeBron's going to try to snap him into reality a little bit and will him through the rest, through the West, I should say.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I think those are all fair points. I think for me, like, I guess I'm kind of like looking at it is I think LeBron is like, okay, like I think it's almost kind of like that time now. I think he's definitely, treating this as if it is like a game one of a series. I don't see. I mean, I just think like the size of the Lakers is just going to overpower Golden State. Obviously, the thing is it's going to be a matter of can you keep Steph to like 27 to like 34 points, kind of keep them somewhat under wraps. I mean, it's going to be a group effort. They're going to have Caruso, Caldwell Pope chasing him around. Schroeder will be chasing him around a little bit. But I do feel like, I mean, with LeBron, if he is, even at like 85, 90%, I think him just like putting pressure on the defense, just going to the rim, getting AD involved. This to me feels like an AD game where I could see him, 27, like 12, really, getting, maybe getting like 15 to 17 points in the first half, really getting rolling, and then LeBron will kind of carry him through to where they'll be able to go ahead and solidify that 7 seed. But I agree with you, man. I think this is going to be one where I'm going to lose a little bit of sleep checking it out, going into the next morning. But I think this will be a great one.
Yeah, I think those are all great points as well. But I also think Curry would not, unless if Curry hits 8 or 9 threes in this game, that still doesn't guarantee them a victory. Curry needs to hit 8 or 9 threes, and the rest of the team needs to come up with 8 or 9 threes.
Yeah.
So I think it's really going to be on
Jordan Poole,
the role players. Can Jordan Poole hit some threes? Can Wiggins hit a 3 or 2? Can Draymond smack one from you? You know what I mean? Like those are going to be the elements that get them to a victory.
Yeah.
I fully expect Curry to show up with, like you said, like the 25. I mean, he averages 32 a game, so I
Mhm.
expect that to be in that ballpark.
Yeah.
Now the real question is can other people hit timely shots when they need it the most? And
Right.
yeah, so I agree with that as well. And I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. I actually just fully, I guess I fully just full disclosure as well, just fully understood what the play-ins were today, as far as how if you lost, you could still win, and like you know what I mean. Like I
Mhm.
just really took the time to understand that earlier. Actually, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to make it interesting as well, as far as who you're playing if you are the Lakers. You know, if you get through, Utah is a dramatically different team than Phoenix.
Yep.
You know, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this unfolds, given that let's say they do make it through this year.
If you're them, which team do you want and why?
I think I would rather play. And it's kind of tough both ways, but I actually looked at it today. The Lakers got their ass beat every time they played the Jazz this year. And so that gives me hope that they would, they could pull it out. But then I would not want to play. I would rather put the Jazz due to inexperience overall, because I think Chris Paul led team can
Give you a lot of
the
trouble.
tough squad. Yeah, yeah. So
Yep.
that's kind of my honest answer to that. But I
Yep.
was very shocked that they lost all 3 games to the Jazz this year.
Yeah.
When I glanced.
A
So
couple of those were they did beat them when they didn't have AD and LeBron. So I was kind of like iffy.
yeah, yeah.
One of those I think a couple of those without AD, and that's when like at one point, so I think Utah won like 20 or 22 or something insane.
Right.
I just don't really. I think I would want Utah if I was Lakers as well, just because like they're a live by the three, die by the three type team. Um, they do have like pretty solid rim protector. I mean, I know we're not the biggest fans of Rudy Gobert, but we'll give him the respect that he's earned, obviously, with being Defensive Player of the Year. But um, I think that would just be more of a matchup I'd prefer over over Phoenix, just because, yeah, Chris Paul. I mean, he's just a winner. I mean, I think about how he took that OKC team, 7 games against Houston. And that's, I mean, a team that had Russ and Harden,
Agreed.
pretty much took them to the brink. So if I were them, I'd probably want to stay away from.
Yeah.
Well, if they win tomorrow, they got to play Phoenix. If they lose, then they will have Utah. So I
Yeah,
still,
you brought up the Lakers size earlier when we were talking about the plan, and I think that is the the Lakers size is probably their biggest benefit and their biggest draw, like negative towards them, I would say, because yeah, you're going to be able to overpower, like let's say probably the Nets. Like the Nets, you'll be able to overpower, but also on the inverse on defense, you're a complete liability when they got a bunch of 6'5" guards out there. So I would say it's gonna be interesting to see how they decide how they're forced to play as the playoffs go along.
yeah,
If you're
a
playing
lot of
against
a lot of
Utah and
lineups
the
with
only
AD at the
yeah yeah
5.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, but then that's taking away your biggest like mid-season signing in Drummond. That's
Hmm.
taken away. I don't know. You watch them more than I do, but when's the last time Marc Gasol's hit the floor? And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that, you're taking away half your size at that alone, and then you're forced to do more or less what you're doing last year, or not
Hmm.
even last year, because you had JaVale McGee, who was a great fit, but I would say then you're forced to try to do the AD at the 5, LeBron at the 4, point forward type deal.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they're forced to play, depending on who they match up against.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, it'll just be one of those things where Vogel's gonna have to figure out what works best. They'll definitely
LeBron's
be
going to
missing
figure
like
out
a
what works best.
huh?
You said LeBron's going to figure out what works best.
Yeah. LeBron and Vogel are gonna get together and figure out what works best. I think this is definitely one of those times where they'll miss like a Dwight Howard, because even though he was pretty limited, like I mean he's a center, I'm saying, like an old school like NBA center, essentially. But he was definitely one of those that could like guard like the 1 through the 3, like on pick and
Mm-hmm.
roll stuff like that. Like I don't really trust Drummond in those situations. Mark
No,
Gasol, I mean,
Drummond gets block happy. Just being a Pistons fan, you can get Drummond off his feet with a pump fake. You can get Drummond off his feet with a move and get him in
yeah,
foul trouble early. Which is he is a good defender, just minus that
yeah,
you can get him in foul trouble quick.
right,
Yeah, so I agree.
yeah. But no, I think it'll be really interesting because I guess this team is. I mean, I say they're better than last year, one player we're forgetting about too is Montrezl Harrell.
Yeah,
That's somebody that's going to be definitely like a factor. I mean, he's a pretty good defender off pick and roll. He can probably guard, 1 through the 3 off a pick and roll. Like, I'm not expecting like him to like sit down or like Chris Paul or nothing like that, but just, to slow him down, make things uncomfortable for a player like Chris Paul. Players like Donovan Mitchell, just like, closing off lanes, like to the cup, things along those lines. I do feel like they they have like the best, like I think like top 3 defense in the league, so they do a good job like perimeter wise. But like you said, it's going to be once you kind of see those matchups where some of these teams are kind of playing small ball, it'll be interesting to see how they're able to adapt. I think they have the personnel, but it's also kind of like you get in those situations where it's tough to rebound. Like I would like Rudy Gobert getting into a rebound battle with him. That could be a challenge. He's not like a huge physical type guy, but I mean he's 7'2". So he's definitely going to be able to, give some of them players down low some trouble.
agreed.
So
Agreed. Um, yeah, I don't know. So you're both you feel confident in a series win versus either of those?
I do.
You
Just because, I mean, if LeBron's healthy, yeah.
do?
LeBron and AD are both good to go. I feel confident that they'll be getting to the second round.
I would say I agree with that, but I would think it's going to be very close both ways, like 6, 7 games.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's going to be a long road. It's going to be
Like, I wouldn't be surprised they got down, like, 2-zip, had to win 2 at their crib, got to steal 1 on the road, something along those lines. I mean, I watched LeBron do that in the Eastern Conference with Cleveland, like, against, like, the Pacers. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
this is,
all the time.
it's, the playoffs, this is where it gets tough. You get on the road, crowds all, happy and just going crazy, and team jump on you 23-9 before you even look up. You're already down 15, 16 points, and it's kind of like sometimes at halftime, it's like, all right, it's time to pack it in.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think,
Avalanche just hit you, and there's nothing you can do.
yeah, like you just can't recover, and it's just I mean, those games just happen. I mean, we see them happen, both ways, as far as just, whether you're at home or away, sometimes the team just jump on you and don't get off. It's kind of like too late. But I mean, I don't know. Like I said, with LeBron, as long as he's able to go, he looked fine yesterday. I mean, tweaking an ankle,
It
it's
was
an
the same
ankle,
ankle.
huh?
Was it the same ankle?
Yeah, he just kind of stepped on somebody's foot going down and kind of,
I seen it happen. I just wasn't sure if it was the same. Like I seen it come across Twitter, but
yeah,
yeah, I think it's interesting how it's like a weird link, like because he missed a lot of like he twisted it, missed like 20 games, came back, twisted it, missed games, twisted it. It's just like what is happening with the ankle? Like it's
yeah, I
kind of
don't
like
know.
I don't. It's like was it worse than they initially told us, or is it
Yeah,
literally just the worst luck ever, where you keep rolling it, or is it yeah? It's kind of just odd. It's kind of just
yeah.
odd.
I mean, everybody's rolled an ankle. They just kind of know, like, I don't know if they're like taping it, not taping it. If he ain't a fan of that, whatever that kind of may look like. Um, I think it's just an ankle, so it's go time.
No, yeah, no, I'm saying, but in general, it's just odd how frequently it happened. Like
Yeah,
I didn't think he would miss the first 20 games when he missed it, and then
yeah,
he came back, and then I knew he would do it again. And it's just like,
yeah.
well, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah, this is, I guess,
yeah,
a lot of power and force. I don't know. Like, that's the only thing I kind of think of. Maybe you need to, bring back some of them high top LeBron. I don't know. Like,
what do they call them? Them, damn, them little
that what Steph
stop,
Curry got.
yeah, stop your ankles from twisting, like an air gap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, he had all them ankle problems to start off his career, so he wears those ankle braces every game now.
no, I agree.
So
I don't know how half the league hoops in low tops is
yeah,
crazy.
it's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
agree.
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I agree. We can kind of hop around a little bit and just talk about who we think maybe the favorites are overall. Try to give a broad playoff picture, or
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah. I don't know all about the top of the head, but I mean, I definitely talk about like maybe like some intriguing matchups that I think
yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of looking forward to seeing. I mean, I think one of them for sure is going to be, I believe the Knicks are playing the Bucks first round. Uh,
Knicks Knicks are playing the Hawks first round.
it's playing the Hawks. Then it's the Bucks and the Heat
Yeah,
rematch.
yeah, yeah. That is gonna be interesting.
I'm a big, I'm a big Heat guy.
You did. We
I,
were talking about them
they
early in
first
from
round
sitting at like
Giannis.
Hitting at like 13 in the East.
Yeah,
I agree.
they pushed around Giannis. They're getting back healthy. Jimmy Butler, he's back and he's healthy and he's irritated. He's always just out there, just super motivated. I think the Bucks. I think that series will be Giannis is going to be kind of like out for blood, like kind of like out for revenge. They made him look kind of silly last year.
Yep.
So I think with him and then just getting like Drew Holiday and PJ Tucker, they're a little bit more physical. Got a little bit more perimeter defense. So I think that they'll be able to pull that one out. But yeah, anytime you got guys like, Julius Randle and Trae Young, first time in the playoffs, two All-Stars, great players in their own. Arguably might be like top 5, top 8 with their position right now. It's always kind of interesting to see how they kind of, come out the gate. Sometimes players tend to struggle a little bit. It's their first playoff series. Other times, guys tend to, kind of rise to the occasion and just really hit the ball rolling. So, I mean, those would be a couple great matchups there for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on Milwaukee and in the Heat. I think that's gonna be another one that goes probably 6 or 7 games. A couple close losses either way. A couple, not fouls, but a couple balls go a different way. Maybe the series could have flopped either direction. So that's gonna be something I fully anticipate. Going 7 games. Probably the most interesting matchup I would say is, to me at least, round 1 is going to be the Clippers and Dallas. So I think I'm a pretty big Luka fan. I like his game. He's somehow the best, most unathletic guy I've ever seen in my life. And then the Clippers, who just need to get their shit together, cannot have another flop like they did last year. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can all kind of pull it together and make a run as themselves, and actually do what they came together to do, and that's stop LeBron. Yeah. Or if they're about to get bounced by, Luka and Porzingis. So that's kind of a real interesting matchup to me, and I think that's going to go probably 7 either way. Whoever wins that, it will be, they're going to have to go the whole gauntlet.
Yeah, some argue that if Porzingis didn't get hurt, that game Mavs might have won that series last year. I don't love Kawhi's always hurt, sore foot, knee, hand. Yeah. I just don't understand. I mean, these players nowadays, it's like, I don't know, they always kind of find a reason to sit out. I don't love how they lost to like 2 out of 3 worst teams in the league to try to get better positioning. I don't think it's ever I know these games, quote unquote, really didn't matter, but I just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. You know what I mean? You lose to the 2 worst, your second string guys couldn't even really pull out a win against these horrible teams. Yeah. I don't know. I think that they kind of play around too much, in my opinion.
I agree. It's you're not all for business. And I do agree with you that mindset, you don't want to have that mindset of we can lose this. We can lose these games on purpose. Obviously you want to have that mindset. So I would agree with that. And then I'm just looking. You're going to tell me that it's easier matchup them versus Dallas versus them versus Portland? I don't know. That's kind of a toss. You're gonna if you got that mindset of we can lose this, you might try to lose to either one of them teams.
Yeah.
So, because
that's one team that Portland, they've had their backs against the wall for the last month, so they've had to win damn every game in order to even get to where they did all that and only got the 6th seed.
Yeah.
So and they get in a team, a Denver team that don't got Jamal Murray. And I love Dame and CJ. These are guys are just when they get hot, it gets real scary. I think, but no, I agree with you. I mean, I feel like just off of Clippers saying they have the 2 best perimeter defenders in the league in Kawhi and Paul George, I feel like they kind of would want to maybe welcome that matchup with Portland more than the matchup with Dallas, because we saw how much they struggled with Luka last year.
Right.
So.
And the one thing you brought up Jamal Murray real quick. And the most odd thing about that is Jamal Murray is a great player, but him going down, the team has actually somehow found their own stride in moving in Michael Porter Jr. into the starting lineup, or at least getting significant more minutes now. Yeah. And they're even kind of transformed into a different team. So oddly enough, I think they're probably still better with him. Yeah. But the team they have now is still a very good team as well, because they had a guy step up that's putting up 20 a game that's not getting any shine at all. Yeah. So I think it's just an odd and interesting dynamic that they have going on. And yeah, but obviously when Jamal Murray, I mean, what he averaged probably 40 something in the playoffs last year for that one series.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so no,
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
everybody, a lot of people forgot they went to the conference finals last year. They
Hmm.
were just kind of they were the ones that were down 3-1 to the Clippers and came back and won in seven.
Yeah,
You know, I think it is crazy how Jamal Murray. I mean, he's like a solid point guard. For him to go down and then they kind of start playing through Jokic more and they said Michael Porter Jr. I mean, he looks just like KD out there to me.
yeah,
Just bigger version of him. I think I seen you some numbers not too long ago about where he was
yeah, yeah,
almost averaging better numbers than KD was about 50, 60 games into his career. So I think it's very impressive that he's been doing so far. But yeah, no, all in all, I mean, both conferences is going to be solid, very solid basketball.
yeah.
Um,
And you can't put in you got to just mention Monte Morris, backup point guard. He stepped up, played a different, unique role.
yeah,
I think they have a lot of depth on that squad.
they do.
Yeah, and just had to give the Flintstones a shout out.
Yeah,
So, yeah, and that's kind of all. And I think overall, just to kind of look at the playoff picture, I think I'm going to go ahead and feel very confident to say I feel Eastern Conference. I think we're looking at top two seeds are going to be there in Brooklyn and 76ers. And out west, I can almost impossible to root against LeBron. I will give you that. Um, I don't know. It's just hard for me to say right now. But I think depending on where they come in at, that'll have a bigger effect for them of how they're, depending on what seed they fall into the playoffs in, that'll have a big outcome on how tough it is for their road to get there.
like I could,
Um,
yeah, no, I
yeah,
agree. I can see them like 4-1 in Utah and then going like 6 with Phoenix,
yeah,
kind of like something along those lines. So
yeah. I agree with that.
yeah, absolutely. But no, all in all, definitely excited. It's probably one of my favorite times of the year. TNT, as they say, 40 games, 40 nights. Definitely gonna be looking forward to some great competition going into the weekend, and we'll definitely check in with you guys come this weekend and kind of give our what our thoughts are on some of the matchups coming up. So
Yeah, quick curveball. Who's your MVP?
my MVP, I don't go Chris Paul. I'm going Chris Paul. Like I think he's just so deserving of one. He's not gonna get it. They're gonna give it to Jokic. But like, I mean, the guy has literally showed up at like all these different franchises and completely turned them around. You take a team like, I mean, Phoenix they were like a bottom feeder,
Yeah,
before last year, and now they're the 2 seed. Like that's nothing but. I mean, obviously Booker is coming to his own. Aiden's playing a lot better, but I mean, that's Chris Paul, man. Like he is definitely always. He's just the floor general you want. Like I'll take him on my team every time I step on the court. So who
yeah.
do you think?
I can't get mad at that Chris Paul at all. Jokic, obviously he's great. I feel a little odd about him winning the MVP, but I would have to go Embiid. I think Embiid. I just every time I can get a chance to watch him play, I think he's great.
Yeah,
I don't know, just a big man playing basketball is good to see because you never see that. So I think
yeah,
and I'm just that's kind of be my thing is just Doc has him playing good. He's exciting to watch, and UK came off the squad. I mean, similar to Chris Paul, similar to Curry. I mean, yeah, if you remove them from the team, I don't know how many games they win.
yeah.
So
I agree.
yeah,
I agree with that for sure. Yeah, I think the only thing that's gonna hurt him is just he missed like 20 something games, and they're kind of even saying like he might not have played enough to like
yeah,
really be in the running. But I mean definitely deserving.
agreed. And that's kind of the thing about a lot of them players by default. Because KD had a great year by default, he can't do it. Harden by default can't. You know what I mean? So it's one of those.
Kyrie 50,
Yeah,
40, 90.
right.
Like, but then he missed like 20 something games, so they're not really having it.
Yeah,
So,
because in a traditional season, that's like you play like 40% of the year.
right.
So yeah,
Definitely.
agreed. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, sure. I just want to throw it in last minute. I think that'd be a little interesting. But yeah, we'll have some content coming soon for the rest of the playoffs here.
absolutely. All right. We'll be with you guys later.
Peace.